What is up, everybody, and welcome to today's prediction video. For this one, the action takes us to a top of the table clash in the English Premier League this weekend as Manchester City host Arsenal at the Etihad Stadium on the 31st of March. Now, City travelled to the Emirates for the reverse fixture on the 8th of October. It was a match that seemed pretty even. Both sides obviously getting at each other coming into the match as well. Both sides still very much in the Premier League race, which is something that has run up right up until now. And Arsenal and City both had a right go at one another. But it was right at the end of the match, the 86th minute, when the home side, the Gunners, eventually opened the scoring through Gabriel Martinelli. Now Martinelli takes a shot and it gets a deflection and goes past the keeper, and a lot of people are complaining, or did complain, and say that it was a lucky goal. But at the end of the day, Martinelli still had to take the shot. He still had to have enough confidence in himself that he could score from that angle, and maybe it was a kind deflection, but at the end of the day, the final score still read Arsenal 1, Manchester City 0. We start off our team analysis with Manchester City. The last 5 fixtures for the Citizens have ended in 4 wins and a single draw. Their last match was a 2-0 win against Newcastle at the Etihad. This means City come into this one on a 5-match unbeaten streak. Obviously, a player who's getting all the goals for Manchester City right now is Erling Haaland. With 29 goals and 6 assists, it has actually been quite a few weeks since Haaland last scored for the Citizens. So don't be too surprised if this is the match where the floodgates just open all over again. Next up, I want to talk a little bit about Phil Foden with 18 goals and 10 assists. I like to think of Phil Foden as the Swiss Army knife in Pep Guardiola's Arsenal. Foden brings creativity anywhere, everywhere, pace, dribbling, shooting, the ability to just make opportunities for other players. I think with Foden, you really get an action-packed little number 10 player. And next up, I want to talk Rodri with 7 goals and 11 assists. Rodri's taken more of a attacking approach to the game this season. He's gotten more goals, he's gotten more assists. And I think obviously that is part of why Rodri is stealing so many headlines this season as well. Players like Ilkay Gundogan left Manchester City and Kevin De Bruyne was injured, which meant that Rodri had a whole new set of responsibilities that he had to deal with, and he has dealt with them beautifully. Next up, we look at Arsenal. Now, the last 5 fixtures for the Gunners have ended in 4 wins and 1 loss. Their last match was a 1-0 victory against Porto in the Champions League. It was a match that had to go through to penalties, but the Gunners still came through on top in the penalties anyway. A player I think who has been incredibly inspirational for Mikel Arteta's team this season has got to be Martin Odegaard. With 9 goals and 7 assists, maybe Odegaard is not getting the figures that he got in past seasons, but I think now we're seeing a different kind of Odegaard. We're seeing a player who is more prepared to drop in deeper, to pick the ball up from perhaps his backline or deeper in his midfield and go forward with it. Perhaps looking to play passes into other players, looking at things from the bigger picture as opposed to just, can I score or can he score in the moment? Next up, I want to talk a little bit about Declan Rice with 6 goals and 7 assists. Declan Rice has come into Arsenal and provided a bit of stability in their midfield. There were times last season where Arsenal looked very good up front and very good at the back, but their midfield was just letting them down constantly. And Declan Rice has come in and solved all of those midfield stability problems that Arsenal had. He's just brought a kind of composure to the team, but also a willingness to chase the ball when they're out of possession. And finally, I want to talk Eddie Nketiah with just 6 goals and 3 assists. Nketiah, from our 3 players here, has the least goals and the least assists. But I think at the end of the day, with Nketiah, you also got to remember he comes off the bench a lot of the time, and he makes his difference and his impact coming off the bench. Nketiah is not the kind of player who starts matches, but I think that in itself is something that other teams are perhaps not always prepared for. They prepare for certain players like Martinelli and like Bukayo Saka, But Nketiah brings you something different when he comes off the bench and you've instructed your players to play a certain way. And Nketiah comes in and he just throws the cat in amongst the pigeons and makes it so difficult for other teams to defend against. Okay, on to the head-to-head and the S3M2 Verdict. The last 5 fixtures between Manchester City and Arsenal have resulted in 3 wins for Manchester City and 2 wins for Arsenal. Now, I think that does kind of perhaps flatter the citizens a little bit. Actually, coming into this season, before those 2 Arsenal wins, Manchester City actually had a clean sweep. And then Arsenal turned the fixture on its head in the Community Shield when they beat City on penalties. And then in the reverse fixture, obviously, as we said earlier on, Arsenal coming out on top. Recent fixtures this season have actually seen Arsenal come out on top, as we said, in this fixture in particular. But also, Arsenal have come into this without that mentality of being second best that dominated their minds in previous seasons. Right now, if we look at the Premier League table, Arsenal are first with 64 points, while Manchester City are third with 63 points. And then you've got Liverpool in between the two. Now, obviously, I think coming into this one, that already means that regardless of what happens in this fixture, the only winners here are actually going to be Liverpool. Because either one of these sides drops points, or they draw, in which case both drop points. But for Liverpool, it's just great all around. Right now, coming into this match, maybe Erling Haaland's form is not the best. He hasn't been scoring with the consistency that's been expected of him. But I think also when we look at Manchester City, we have to take into consideration the fact that De Bruyne has not been on form lately as well. I think he actually picked up a knock last week or the week before. So he comes into this one as a bit of a doubt as well. To add to Manchester City's injury woes, they've been looking a little shaky, even though their form coming into this is fantastic in terms of getting results. They've been looking a little shaky without Ederson lately. When we look at how many goals City have scored, it's 15 goals scored, but 5 goals conceded. So that's basically a goal every game. When we look at Arsenal, it's 13 goals scored, but only 3 conceded, meaning the Gunners have managed to keep themselves a little tighter at the back. And I think they can actually frustrate Manchester City. I think the massive factor here is if we look at these last 2 fixtures that Arsenal have won, both have actually been played at London, the Community Shield being played at Wembley, and then the reverse fixture in this one, being played at the Emirates. The Etihad is a completely different place to come to. It can be so dominating, it can be so intimidating for opposition teams. Unfortunately, I do think Manchester City have perhaps thrown away their best chance of winning the league this season when they were unable to defeat Liverpool. That is where their draw in their last 5 came in. I think for City in particular, that was a fixture they really needed to win. As difficult as it was, they made it that way for themselves. But after having dropped points in that one, I don't think City really can win the league this season. Obviously, I could be proven wrong if they go out and win this one and Liverpool has some sort of dramatic collapse. But I think that is very unlikely. Nevertheless, I do still think that City come into this one as favourites. I think City have enough squad depth, enough squad potential, and just enough class to go in to this match and just get the job done. Obviously, we couple that with the fact that the Etihad is a fortress right now. It'll make things even harder for the Gunners. Maybe City have a bit of an edge coming into this one when you look at the quality of opposition they've had to play. Liverpool, Manchester United as well. And Arsenal kind of stumbled against a Porto side in Portugal that they would have been expected to beat, to the extent where the reverse fixture, which was played at the Emirates, Arsenal kind of looked like they needed a bit of help there. But they managed to pull it off, and fantastic job there. But I think they do struggle against the City squad, and I do think that Pep's side come out on top here, probably by the odd goal. I think both sides actually score because City's leaky defense is very concerning. But I think it's not enough for the Gunners to overcome Pep Guardiola's Sky Blue Giants right now. hi. Thank you for making it to the end of this video. We really appreciate the watch time and the fact that you took some time out of your day to spend it with us talking about the sport that we all love. If you enjoyed the content, why not, drop a like down below or comment in the comment section. Um, Maybe even consider subscribing to the channel. And I mean, while you are here right now, have a look at some of our old videos too. They should be appearing on the screen right now, along with that subscribe button. So you know exactly what to do. Um, Thank you so much. It really helps with the YouTube algorithm. And have a great day out there. And we hope to see you again very, very soon. Thanks. Stay safe.